This is the Mobile Tech Podcast, brought to you by worldpodcasts.com. Now here's your host, Tech Girl, Miriam Joie.
Brought to you by Infineon. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Joie, and today is Thursday, January 9th, 2025, and we're here in Vegas for CES 2025, and I've got Bill Stewart here of Infineon. Hi, Bill. How are you?
Good. How are you doing? Good morning.
I'm great. This is morning. We both have our coffees. Mm-hmm. Cheers. So I wanted to chat with you about software-defined vehicles, but first, I've worked with Infineon for a while now, and I really am excited about the fact that as a company that makes parts for the automotive industry and silicon for the automotive industry, you're really focusing on, digitalization and decarbonization first. And I think that's really critical because obviously we're going all electric, eventually at some point it's really happening. And so this is, it's in your DNA right now. And I think that's critical because you're kind of encouraging your partners and, your customers to go that route, and you're enabling them to do that with your technology.
Right. So if you look at digitalization, that's really where software-defined vehicles impact the car.
Absolutely.
We see a lot of trends for how the vehicle is actually being developed, the entire architecture. But you're also seeing a lot of traditionally mechanical systems like braking systems becoming digital.
Absolutely.
Right. You no longer have a lot of the hydraulic systems, motors that you would have had in the past. And pumps, you now have electric calipers at a wheel, which is a completely different change. And that's part of what, software-defined vehicle is a very general term. But when you talk about that digitalization, we have to talk about what part of the software-defined vehicle are you talking about?
Well, there's so many things, and that's the thing. I touch on everything on the show here, and with my writings on Tech Radar about EVs and car tech. And you brought in some new technology. We're going to dive into that right now. But I think the big challenge I'm seeing right now in the industry is that shift. We talked about it last year of going from the suppliers controlling the software and kind of giving you turnkey solutions as a car manufacturer to the car manufacturer want to own everything, and rightfully so. You want that experience to be very vertical, right?
Right.
And so I think that's one of the things that you've been able to enable the kind of that switch between, the supplier doing all the software hard work and then the manufacturer doing it by, when I was at October Tech, you were showing all these SDKs and all these, basically software-driven platforms to enable things to be done with your hardware and your silicon.
Right.
And I think, we don't see enough of that in the auto industry. And I think that's where I think your leadership really shows. And I'm excited with that because I love software-defined vehicles.
And that's part of what we're trying to showcase at CES this year. Really, the thing we're trying to look at is not just working with OEMs and that dynamic customer base. It's also a lot of change in our tier one customer base in terms of what they have to focus on.
Exactly.
Because a module that they used to do themselves has now been up integrated into something else.
Yeah.
And so you see where the tier ones are also having to adapt and change their business models at the same time. So we have a few of those systems and reference designs, including software, that we're showcasing this year. One is a battery management system.
Right.
And we did that with one of our partners, Neutron Controls.
Yeah.
And what they're showing in that is not just the management of the battery itself, but really highlighting the safety aspect of it.
Right.
Thermal runaway is a big concern with EVs.
Of course, yeah.
And we have two sensing modalities.
Okay.
We're showcasing one, hydrogen sensing, as well as a pressure sensor to basically pre-detect any sort of damage to the battery so you can get a warning label before you have an incident. Right? You get a check engine light type
And
system.
to be clear for the audience, I know a lot of you have listened to the podcast before and Infineon makes a lot of great stuff, but sensors is another area where you guys are extremely strong. You make sensors that can detect like those oddest things that you can think of. Like I'm from a consumer perspective, things that we wouldn't think about, like hydrogen, right?
Yes.
And I think that that's very critical, especially today. We don't have batteries, very few batteries are thermally stable in a runaway situation.
Right.
So having that ability, the other thing that I think I've seen happen, and I'm not sure if it was Infineon, but Bluetooth BMS monitoring, instead of having all this wiring,
Yes.
is that something you guys are working on?
Yes, we are working on that. That's an area where right now we're trying to work with our customers to really understand understand the system level trade-offs of wired versus wireless.
Right.
We have the advantage of we have a full chipset for battery management system. The battery management IC, the processing, the sensing, as we talked about, but also, the communication side of it. And that's really where we can sit down with the customer and say, hey, what are your system requirements? How can we work together to develop a prototype to do advanced technical work and come up with a solution where they can really determine, does wireless offer the advantages they're looking for or not?
And I think the thing that my audience is kind of partially, aware of right now, to some extent, I think, is that with the SDVs, the software-defined vehicles, what we're seeing more and more is integration of systems, right? We're seeing less microcontrollers, more and more, we're going from domain, to zonal and stuff like that. So I think what's happening is, that's back to what I was talking about with the tier one suppliers, et cetera. And of course, that drives a lot of the innovation we're seeing. EVs is as well, but I think, we're seeing the integration of the software at all levels. It's no longer these tiny little ecosystems of software all over the car. It's one big thing. And I think that's what drives a lot of what you guys are working on right now. And hence, battery management system. In the past, that was like essentially just a firmware-based chip thing, right? But now you really want to be able to not just monitor things in more detail. You want the telemetry of it, right?
Yes.
And then you want to inform the user, not just of a runaway off the seat, get out of the car, but you want to inform them of like, hey, here's a more detailed view of your power consumption. Right?
You want to optimize it.
Exactly. And charging, of course, it's another thing you can optimize that charge curve to be like as close to what the battery chemistry can handle by, having much more granularity, right?
Yeah, the one thing I would challenge you on is we don't actually necessarily see a reduction in the number of microcontrollers.
No, but I think a centralization.
You see a centralization into the zone and central compute modules, but you still need actuators to do the functions. Right.
I'm thinking more of like heavier duty computers, right? Like
you get the higher end.
Like when I talk to Rivian or others, they say, we've gone from like 27 ECUs to whatever. Those numbers are not accurate, but I think that's happening industry wide, and it makes a lot of sense from my perspective as an end user who understands the tech behind it, right?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people, it's not intuitive at first. They're like, well, yeah, but it worked the way it was working. CAN bus was just fine. Why are you doing Ethernet now? Yeah. Well, because we need to carry camera data to the ADAS system. We need to carry audio from the microphones. It's way easier to have a single bus to do all that than have all these individual wires for all these analog devices.
It's all about reduction of complexity.
And weight, right? Less wiring, the less parts, so less, the more you integrate the electronics, right? Yep. So what was the other things that you show here at CES?
So a couple other key things we're showing. We have a zone control reference design that we worked on with another partner, Flex, where we're showing both a development system as well as a production system, where, the development system is something a customer can take. They can utilize a full chipset. It's got more of a breadboard setup so they can make their own adaptations to it. And then we also have more of a production ready system that can be used if you actually want to do testing and really test something out in a vehicle.
I think that's really fascinating. I'm really excited about what I'm seeing. Like, I think one of the more exciting products, I think we kind of touched on it maybe last year because it was already out there, is, in terms of EE architecture, Cybertruck, right? Not just the 48 volt, but the actual networking in that vehicle. And I think, we've seen this with other companies as well, like Rivian Gen 2, which I'm actually driving this week. Definitely a reduction in weight and in wiring. And so, I feel like people don't quite understand how necessary is to go to zonal architecture. Can you maybe segue into that for a minute?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the amount of features and functions, as we talked about, a lot of mechanical systems are being electrified. If you were to stay with the older domain architecture, your ECUs, your central ones, would just become giant wiring harnesses because of the amount of I/O that would have to go in and out of that. So by going to the zonal architecture, you now are integrating features into a box which is more physically located where the function is. So a light gets integrated into the front zone. A trunk control
In the
gets
rear
integrated
zone.
into a rear zone. And what that does is it basically allows you to have some central network pipes over Ethernet, which essentially drive the reduction in wiring, not only from a weight point of view, but just from how you route data
Complexity
through the vehicle.
and flexibility. Like the
Yeah.
thing is, once everything is, you know, software can control way more when it's in one system for say the whole rear of the car, because now you can say like, oh, we can enable this new feature where this sensor in the rear of the car talks directly to this actuator. We never thought they would talk to each other,
Right.
but now we can connect them not just with wires, but with software.
Yeah.
So you can have things like, you know, instead of using a sensor for the foot for opening the trunk, you can now use the rear camera, for example, right? With like some kind of AI machine learning image recognition. I see a shoe. I see it moving. Turn on the thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing people don't understand. It's like, I think we've seen this simplification of the number of sensors and actuators because we have the ability to have zonal architectures.
But I
to some
think
extent.
the thing that is important to remember, though, is we're shifting that complexity.
That's what I mean.
Right? You're not
into the software.
You're not reducing complexity.
Right. But as a software engineer, for me, it's like, you know, like I mean, I studied hardware, you know, so I love good hardware. But I'm just saying, like, having that flexibility where you don't have to
has a ton of value.
Build a new chip, wire a new thing up, but you can just be like, oh, let's code up some stuff to go. That's, to me, I think that also enables things like, you know, monthly over-the-air software updates that delight the customer and give them more options. That's directly affecting my audience who's buying EVs. You know, it's like the reason you see some of your, you know, the companies, the vehicles you own getting new features is because zonal architecture, because of all the stuff we're talking about.
Correct.
What else do we have?
So there's some other, you know, we talk about sensors. We have a new radar reference design, which is targeting more imaging radar type.
Was that the one we saw outside of October Tech?
Yes.
Okay, great,
So
awesome.
Same, and that's a retrofitted something that we put on those vehicles.
You know, I get that.
Where we're also providing software with those, and that's a big. It's reference software.
That's what I was talking about earlier.
Trying
it's
to
like
get that
you
to
guys are not just giving like, here's the hardware, go nuts. You're like, here's the hardware, here's how to use. I like that educational aspect. You know.
So we call that our car kit because it's meant to be able to wire it up where a customer can test it, a customer can look at it, they can do benchmarking, and really get a good idea of what is enabled by that. A couple other things we're really being sensitive with that radar reference design is end customer cost.
Okay.
And so what we've done is worked with antenna designers to develop a waveguide system that does not require your traditional high frequency PCB.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, obviously when you talk about, that's one of the high cost items in a radar module. If you can use traditional FR4 PCB.
So you integrating the waveguides directly into that?
Yeah, basically we have launchers in our device package, which allow you to connect the waveguide essentially directly to the device.
Very cool.
And then you don't need the high frequency PCB.
What frequencies are we talking about? 60 gigahertz?
The one we have here is 77 gigahertz.
77, okay.
We have a 60 gigahertz chipset as well, which can also.
And so use cases for that, so the audience understand, is things like detecting people left in the back seat, like children.
So that's 60 gigahertz.
That's 60, okay.
The 77 is more external to the vehicle.
Okay, so that's like the corners for like lane changes and all that stuff.
Yeah, or forward-looking
radar.
Yeah.
And speaking of radar, how is radar improving over the last, you know, few, like just short time, like 2-3 years in terms of resolution and you know, the challenge with radar is that you know, there's some things it can't detect, right? Like, so I think that's improving all the time, right?
Yeah. So the radar market is kind of segmented, right? You have corner radars, which are your, you know, 100-meter maybe range.
Right.
Those systems are becoming more commoditized. That's where we see a lot of the single
prices
chip.
going way down.
Prices down. And those systems are getting mature. Where we're seeing the biggest advancements in the range and resolution is in the higher channel count devices, the forward-looking, rear-looking. Because when you talk about these level 2, level 3 systems, like Blue Cruise or Autopilot or these types of systems,
Super Cruise,
that's where the improvements are needed that you described. And I think what we're doing, where our focus is higher channel count, so higher receive, higher transmit channel counts, and really focusing on a very high signal-to-noise ratio.
Right.
so you can achieve a higher angular resolution and detect smaller targets at a farther range. Ultimately, when you look at those systems, radar is needed over cameras in certain weather conditions.
Exactly.
That's the biggest
And the
challenge.
idea that it can bounce under a car in front of you and see a car stopping in front of it and anticipate, which is, I think, one of the most magical experiences you can have in a car today. So I think this is great. Is there anything else you wanted to cover as the CS?
Yeah, I think
maybe that you're excited about with Infineon right now on the SDV side.
I think the biggest thing we see traditionally, we've been focused on a lot of these safety critical applications,
Right?
And one of the big focuses we've had over the last 12 to 18 months has been trying to bring more consumer technology or consumer IP into the vehicle.
Right.
And one example of that, we have an HMI demo that we're showing, which is actually a capacitive touch wood panel.
Oh, yes. I saw that demo. I talked to October Tech, and it's better here now.
Yeah, it's improved.
So much faster. Yeah.
So we actually take a capacitive touch sensor, which can work on natural surfaces like wood. And we have a laser beam scanner behind it. And what that laser beam scanner is doing is actually projecting onto the wood from the back, but because it's bright enough, it's translucent, it goes through it. Basically a HMI interface. Right. So if you think about a design studio guy at an OEM, they hate buttons, they hate sensors, they hate all these things, right? So if you can have a natural looking surface that now becomes an HMI, that's something that we think has a lot of potential.
That's great. Like when it's turned off, it looks like just wood, and then you turn it on and you have a display behind the wood that responds to your touch. The closest we've gotten so far, and it's not at all the same thing, is BMW iX has the center console. If you have the wood grain option, it's just lights and a capacitive layer underneath, and then the haptic feedback thing as well, which is kind of cool. But they're not projecting, right? These are preset lights with preset patterns on it.
This is dynamic.
You can't change it. But here, it's not just dynamic, it's color.
Yes, correct.
So that is, and it's not just one spot where the touch sensor is. You can slide on a virtual slider that is projected. I mean, it's just amazing. We have some reels on our Instagram from October Tech of that, and we've got some more from CES, so check that out.
Good.
Cool. Well, listen, Bill, thanks so much. I could nerd out with you about SDVs forever. I mean, this is great. I really appreciate you being on the show again. And thanks for walking us through everything today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks. And we're back, folks, at CES 2025 in Las Vegas, right in the central hall on the show floor. And I got the awesome Adam Dowd on my left, your right, and Nick Gray on my right, your left. Hi, guys. How's it going?
It's going well. The day started off rough, but it's gotten progressively better ever since.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad. It was the same for me, to be honest with you. I was a little perturbed at the beginning of the day for some reason. Anyway, so we're here, and I think I want to kind of go through what are the things that stood out for you, like we do every year. What stood out for you, Nick? What stood out for you, Adam? Maybe one of you start.
Nick can go first. I've already talked.
Sounds good.
I think one of the highlights of the show that a lot of people are going to be talking about starts off with these new graphics cards from NVIDIA. That we've been waiting for.
So, I haven't had a chance to look into that at all. I heard about also they're doing some sort of portable, computer game unit thing.
So a lot of the companies are focusing on handheld gaming devices, stuff like that. But we've been waiting for these new graphics cards from NVIDIA for desktop GPUs for 3 years now, right? Since the last generation. So we have the 50 series, all the way up to the 5090, which is a $2,000 graphics card.
Right.
And of course, they're pitching, we have all these AI capabilities and how much we can process per second. And I'm don't care about any of that. I just want cool graphics on my computer. So it's nice to see that. But then with that, we got all the OEMs releasing new gaming laptops with built-in NVIDIA chipsets. And I can't wait for the springtime for that to come come along. But yeah, lots of new this has turned into a laptop show.
It really has.
So many new laptops.
It really
this year.
has.
It really is. It's kind of amazing. So I'm excited to see the laptops too, because like Asus, personally, I'm super excited about the ZenBook A series. The
Yeah.
A14.
Yeah.
The A14 looks really
Oh
nice.
my God.
You have to get the marketing term in there. Ceraluminum
Well,
finish
okay, yeah.
on the
Ceraluminum.
top, the deck,
It's-
and the bottom.
But it's only $899 starting.
Yeah, the base
know.
price is $899.
and
is
it
kind
looks
of
like a
low
MacBook Air, like
Yeah.
built like one. It's beautiful.
I will say this though, it's nice that it's metal, and I like the nice finish. And we saw it last year at IFA, the A14 or the S14 with the ceraluminum top.
Top, I have
and then
that
it had
one,
the
actually.
etched finish on top.
Yeah.
There's no etched design on this one, so it looks and feels just like a soft touch rubber almost,
The
but
whole
it's
thing.
metal. It's a
Right.
ceramic aluminum finish. It kind of feels like, unless you know it's metal, it kind of feels cheap
Right.
to that point. I'm like, this is.
It felt like plastic the first time I touched it.
Yeah, it feels
Yeah.
like it feels like a soft touch plastic, but it's nice. You don't get fingerprints on it. It doesn't get smudges. Nothing sticks to it. It's really nice, but it just doesn't have the luxury feel of the S14 that launched a couple months ago. With that,
Sure.
you see the etched finish.
But I think
on
it's
it.
appropriate for what they're trying to do, which is
Yeah.
$899 Snapdragon X
Powered, yeah.
powered.
I think it's Snapdragon X
laptop.
Plus.
Yeah, it's Plus, I think, but depends on the market. Some markets are getting a
Oh,
little.
Well, so
Yeah.
they have there's a couple different variants and based off of
I
the
think
market.
aren't they getting an X series too? Like just a straight X series that Qualcomm announced here?
No, it's Plus, but it's 8 core.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
believe,
yeah.
right?
Well, and then along that line, Qualcomm announced some new chipsets for their laptops as well. So they're because of that, they're getting cheaper. We're not stuck on the high end with
Right.
the X Elite. We're actually getting some more budget conscious devices that is going to let Qualcomm kind of enter the market with the ARM architecture.
Can I tell you about the laptop that I'm excited about though?
Yeah.
The Lenovo ThinkPad Rollable.
Oh my
No,
God.
it's coming to
I thought-
market.
I know.
Oh, you got to get the name right.
Yeah.
The ThinkBook Plus Gen 6
Gen 6.
Rollable.
Right.
And to be clear, this is Gen 1.
Right.
I don't know why it's Gen 6.
Yeah.
but
I
it's
was wondering that.
the worst name
No,
ever.
no, because they've had ThinkBook Pluses. This
No,
is-
but it's not the Gen 6 Rollable.
Right.
No, right.
Right.
Yeah, the Rollable
but
is Gen
I
1.
think it's all the concepts that become production that are odd, like the one with ink before. You remember?
Yeah.
Those are all ThinkBook Pluses. So this is the
Okay.
6th gen, and it's but not a rollable.
So
6th
it's
gen.
the 6th gen of the family of
right,
devices.
but the first gen of the rollable.
It's just so confused. Like, I would just call it the ThinkBook Rollable.
Right.
So you know
Like-
what I like about that thing is I like the fact that it's coming to market
Mm-hmm.
as a viable product. It is $3,500, which is a lot, but it's not $5,000.
Right.
And so it's possible to conceive of owning that, like some people have Vision Pro. And I think it really, what I'm most excited about is that they're actually ballsy enough to go ahead with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was at the Samsung display booth
Yeah.
over at the Encore and seeing all the technology, and it was the day before the embargo lifted.
Right.
And my contact here is like, so we're showing off this rollable display concept. Tomorrow we're swapping this out for something different. I'm like, oh, you're swapping it out for the Lenovo. He's like, oh, you've seen it already? I'm like, yeah.
That's funny.
So the Samsung
funny.
display people were really excited because you'd go through the Samsung display booth and it's just all these concepts of what you can do with foldable, bendable displays.
Yeah.
And they're like, we can actually show a real product rather than,
Yeah.
we imagine this is what people will do.
You know what's funny though is the Achilles heel for this is, as always, Windows. Because I don't know when you were doing your demos, but
Oh yeah, it was wonky.
it was so wonky because like you would set like two windows like up top and bottom on the screen. As soon as you extended the screen, it would switch them to vertical. And you know, similarly, if you set two windows vertically, when you expanded it, it would just basically just flip the orientation
Yeah.
for some reason. There's no rhyme or reason behind it, but
Yeah,
I
it's-
mean there is rhyme or reason. That's what it does, but there's no reason.
It's one of those things where you would hit the button and depending on which screen you were on, half of your screen would go away. Like if you had a window that was full screen, because what it does, as soon as you hit the button, it goes into the system settings and changes the resolution of the display.
Right.
Instead of saying you're 16 by 9, you're now whatever, and it's vertical instead of horizontal. And
Windows is not designed for that dynamically, though.
Windows
so
is
it's not
that
dynamic. So like, it's you would think because the screen is rolling up that the UI would roll up, but it just resizes the UI and then it hides half of it underneath and then rolls it up to you.
Right.
When I used it,
So weird.
I had my website in, I guess, whatever their web Edge, and I could scroll, and it would render properly as it was shrinking and growing for me. Like I could.
So maybe Edge is compatible.
Yeah, it just.
Right. But when you make the screen bigger and smaller, it went to that other animation.
No, not
or
for the one.
Did you turn that off?
I don't know.
Oh,
The one
okay.
they lent, who had all these little booths.
Yeah.
Record like with all the laptops. The
Oh.
one on our booth.
Yeah, some of them
Someone
were
played with yours.
Flawlessly.
so some of them would show a specific animation during
Yeah,
the
that-
roll.
yeah.
Sound
Some of
was
them
still there.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
you can turn the sound off in the settings.
Stupid- Sorry.
That's funny. Okay, yeah. So
and of
someone
course,
played with
like
yours.
it's a product that I think a lot of us like because like when we are working on the go, for me, especially for video editing, having a larger display in a regular laptop form factor,
Right.
I can push a button and I can have my videos on top, timeline at the bottom, my editing tools, whatever.
Yep.
But if I gain that much screen real estate, it's a godsend.
It really is.
Dude,
And
let's get real. We all want this.
Yeah. No,
There's absolutely no doubt about it.
we do.
This is the star of the show.
The funny part is though, like of the laptops that Lenovo showed off, the one that works best with my workflow is the Yoga Book 9i with the dual
Oh,
screens.
and they've upgraded it.
Yeah.
To the latest chipset from Intel, the dual screen one.
The dual screen one. So
What's
it's
it
new-
called again?
It's the Book 9i.
Arrow Lake.
No, Arrow Lake.
The Arrow Lake
Arrow Lake.
chipset. Yeah, so it's got the new chipset, and
It's slightly bigger screens too, less bezel, I hear. You told me that.
I could
Because when I picked it up, I was like, it looks bigger than mine.
The
He's
screen,
like,
the screen
"No,
is bigger.
it's-
It went
it's
from
not."
13.3 to
but
14.
the whole
Okay.
thing is thinner though, and so much
So it is
lighter.
bigger.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
because he said no, chassis is the same, the screens are bigger.
Yeah,
And I'm
I
like,
mean-
so there's less bezel.
Maybe.
Seemed bigger. to me.
It went
the
from
specs.
13 to 3
Check the
to
specs.
14. That's
Damn
what they
it!
told
It
me.
was. I like the form factor.
And they're still using the folio to carry around the keyboard separately, but they made the folio longer, and I think I was one of the only people to ask about it because like the person that was showing it to me is like, "Oh, you noticed that?" I'm like, "Yeah," because I guess what you do is you can take the folio and you can roll it kind of like an iPad cover.
Yeah, like an origami
and you
thing.
can set it like in. So normally it's like this. And like the second screen is like this, but you can origami it so it's like more like this, so you can draw
they've
on it.
changed that.
Yeah.
Oh wow. I
So they
didn't
made it a
realize
little bit longer so they could add a couple of segments to it, which I thought was a nice touch.
So to me, affordable tech. If you're looking for laptops, this is really a laptop show in many ways.
Right.
That Asus
Yeah.
ZenBook A14. Keep an eye out for that because I think that's going to kick ass. And then, of course, the money, the Lenovo Gen 6 ThinkPad Plus, whatever. I know what it is.
Well, then
Well,
Asus also
that's an
had
investment.
their gaming tablet that they
Oh,
released,
yeah, they
the
did.
Flow,
Yeah.
and
Which is
that-
like-
and a
with an
bunch of
AMD
new
chipset.
Zephyrus G series.
Yeah, the Zephyr Z series are the new ones with the NVIDIA GPUs. But before we move on from Lenovo, they also had their
Legion.
the Legion Go S,
Right.
which is the first licensed handheld
Wow.
gaming
Steam.
with Steam
Yeah.
OS on it.
Yeah, which is cool.
It feels really nice. The price isn't going to be too high, which is great.
$499.
$499 for the Steam one. The Steam
Mm-hmm.
one's not coming until
Q3, I think they
No,
said?
Q2.
Okay. It's in my
They
notes.
said May. But the Windows one is like on pre-order right now, so you can
Nice.
go get the pre-order. But the Windows ones, they're only like pre-selling the more expensive
The
ones. So it's
expensive
like
one,
$7.99.
something, yeah.
But that's still a really good deal for what it was. So like if you love Windows gaming and want to take it on the go, there are so many options right now.
Yeah.
And even Acer released, what was it, like a 11-inch one?
Oh, really?
Right.
Yeah, and I didn't get to see it, but I saw the press release. I was like, I need to make sure I can stop by Acer this week to take a look at that.
The other thing, just a quick mention before we leave Lenovo, is there are now ThinkPads without a track point. Sacrilege.
I applauded that, and I stand by it.
No, that was hilarious. So Adam and I on the briefing.
I was the only
and
one.
the woman shows us the thing.
Bring the nubbin back.
Were you there?
No.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I was there.
So, but when Adam and I made that comment,
Death to nubbin.
like, so I pretended to be horrified because I don't care about the track.
Right.
So I was like, I let out like this sigh. I was like, oh, and then he was like, yes. It was so fun.
Love it.
It's been there for what, 2 decades?
Yeah.
Well, and they
You
were
want
they were saying it's still a business laptop, but this is for new converts to
Right.
the market.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, if we're bringing business away from Dell or something like that, you know, this is still something that's going to be applied. You know, your IT managers.
The Dell,
can hand you
the
this
Dell,
laptop.
the Dell Pro, or the Dell Pro Max.
Oh my God, the name.
The Dell Pro, I don't care because
Right.
you killed XPS, and that was the only thing good about Dell. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm done.
Dell changed their naming convention, guys, and I'm not going to expand on this because we've already pretty much done the summary, but it's BS, and I don't know where they're going with this.
Well, I think they're trying to make it easier for IT managers to just buy products.
Pro Max, come on. Nobody calls anything Pro Max except
But-
Apple.
But that's better than the
And
Dell.
it was sucky the first
Dell,
time around.
whatever, 76351-339.
That's why
Yeah.
nobody buys Dells and it's IT people who buy Dells.
But
Right.
like they're not a consumer brand anymore. Like it's not. It hasn't been for years. I'd like 80% of their sales have always been B2B sales anyways. So it really doesn't matter. I don't know why they're at the consumer electronics show because there's nothing consumer about it. It's
Yeah.
B2B product.
what
Fair.
about, did we miss anything else that Asus brought? You said the tablet, the
The
Zephyruses,
Duo, the new generation
Yeah,
the
Duo.
new generation Duo, which also Arrow Lake because of dual
Yeah.
display.
And I like that one because of the built-in kickstand and the keyboard like sandwiches.
Yeah, they
between
had
the
a couple Chromebooks as well. Like
Yeah.
they had a whole lineup. Like they had
Oh,
like 12 different products.
It's a
You
whole
can't-
shebang.
oh,
Yeah.
Have we, and any of us, gotten briefed by HP?
I have not. No, HP
I
again
got
is
briefed by HV. Couldn't tell you what they're bringing because it's in my notes in my bag. But,
But you didn't,
the biggest-
nothing stood out. Like, you know how those two things stood out for us?
not from a
What?
laptop perspective, but the one thing that HP did bring, which actually won the Slashgear Best of CES award, was their Print AI software that they have coming. So I'll give you the TLDR version of it. Basically, right now it's a browser extension, but it will be driver level by Q3.
And what does it do?
And basically, you want to print out anything. The AI examines what you want to print, takes out all the crap, and then just prints what you want. So, like the
what could possibly go wrong?
right, absolutely. But no, they had a couple of examples where you like print out a news article, it takes out all the ads for you and all the comments down at the bottom.
Okay.
If you want to print out a recipe, it cuts out all the I make this 3 times a week for my family and we all love it, and it just prints out like the ingredients.
Wait,
and
Adam,
the
don't
thing.
you make it 3 times a week?
I don't.
Aren't you the family hero?
No.
Okay.
No.
It's unfortunate.
But anyway, so I like that because what I think is nice about it is it's AI, but it's kind of like AI in the background. Like it's not AI for AI's sake. It's just AI because this is making things better, and that's all I really want. I don't want AI shoved down my throat all the time. I just want a better printer. Can I have a better printer, please?
Sure. Let's pause for a second just in case it thinks this is voice and keeps it in the AI stuff.
Okay.
Wow, that was wrong. That was annoying. Okay,
Yeah.
you marked that, Theo? Okay.
Oh, you bet I marked the shit out of that.
So anything else on the laptop and laptop companies front?
I'm going to see Razer.
Yeah, Razer.
Friday.
I haven't seen Razer.
Right.
yet.
Yeah.
Razer, they released a new Blade 16.
Right.
Is it
Yeah.
super sexy? Is it Intel?
It looks like an old Razer
AMD?
Blade. It's Intel.
Intel.
Yeah, they haven't gone the Qualcomm route yet. Yeah, I mean, as far as laptop goes, there was a whole lot more, but those were the exciting
The
ones.
big
I think
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
yeah. Well, Adam,
Yeah.
you got to run.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for being here.
I don't touch.
Do you want to quickly tell people where they can find you?
Yes, I forgot this last time I was on the podcast. Benefit of the Dowd, youtube.com/benefit of the Dowd. I talked about everything except for that. I need a written script because if I don't have a script, I suck. So yeah, youtube.com, benefit of a Dowd. Me and my podcast partner Cliff will be reviewing the OnePlus 13R, so that'll be fun.
Sweet.
And which you're about to talk about. And then Dead Technology everywhere else on the socials. I'm at Slashgear. I'm at CNN. I'm at Laptop Mag. I probably will be at a couple of other places by the end of the month. So yeah, it's a rollicking good time. So find me on the socials, Benefit of the Dowd or Dead Technology.
All right, there you go. So Nick, OnePlus 13 here, 13R, both in their cases. I'm going to take them out. You want to intro us?
Officially announced.
Finally, well, we kind of knew.
Not announced at CES, but announced during CES. Yeah, we have the 13 and the 13R running Snapdragon chipsets, the 8 Elite on the 13, and then it's the 8 Gen 3 on the R.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically a pretty great deal for the money, I think. This is unfortunately not the white one, which I think is
I do
better
have
looking.
the white one.
You're not with you, though, do you?
It's, I don't know. I actually like the color of the black one a little bit more. The white one, it does, like the black, it's plain. Like there's no flair to it like the 13, which has the blue leather finish, faux leather finish. It feels really nice, I have to say. Cameras on this thing are pretty impressive for a OnePlus. Not necessarily impressive for anything else,
I
but
think
the
they're
zoom's really good.
I think they're competitive. I think that they have some features like that action burst, action mode burst, clear burst.
Yep.
That are I've never taken photos like that with a phone. I haven't been able to. I used it with a 6x telephoto in the aquatic show on our cruise, and I couldn't believe that I got literally people stuck in midair with water drops in the air on a 6x in low light.
Yeah, I mean it's good. I will say that for a OnePlus, it's incredible for a phone. I'd say hands down the best camera that they put on the phone. It used to be the Open. The Open was the best one we'd had for a long time, and then this takes it to the next level.
This is very similar to Find X8 series. Despite a different ISP, I feel like they are very close, very, very close. And it's interesting because the camera system in the 13 is 3 of the 4 cameras of the Pro. It's not the camera system of the base Find X8.
My one complaint, though, with camera system is still, and this goes pretty much across the entire BBK group, selfie cameras. It is a pain point. It's okay for photos.
I took a good photo, though.
It's okay for photos.
Oh, video.
And then you switch it to video, and it just falls flat on its face.
Okay, I'm not judging it for video because I don't care about video.
But like the exposure
That's why
levels,
I have an iPhone.
yeah, the exposure levels and the dynamic range are just really bad. Like it wants your face to be as bright as possible, blows out the background completely, and if you're trying to use it for anything besides a video call, it's not a good experience.
I agree. I think that video, I mean, the one thing that's cool about video is you can do 4K 60 HDR on every sensor.
All sensors,
which
even
is
the
impressive,
selfie camera.
Yeah. But the video quality, I agree that selfie is a letdown, and generally it's not that. I mean, I think that Pixel's doing okay, Samsung's doing okay, but if you really want good video, go to iPhone.
Yeah. They also, it has wireless charging.
Yes, so same specs as here, 100 watt wired, 80 in the US with the 120 volt voltage on the power supply. And then we have a 50, right?
Yeah.
But there is cases and accessories.
Yeah, so they're making a big deal about we have wireless charging with magnetic wireless charging support. It supports Qi 2, and I'm like, so you made a case with magnets in it? Like I have a Pitaka case for my Pixel, and it has magnets in it.
You're using a case on your Pixel now?
Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
I came to the trade show because everyone's showing up with Qi 2 accessories, and so they're like, oh yeah, this is for the iPhone, and then I pull this out, and I'm like, no, it works for my phone too. So I'm testing it out with my personal phone as I'm going through the booth, so that's why the only reason is because
Shout out to Pitaka, who also supplied me with a 9 Pro XL case and supplied me with an iPhone 16 Pro case. They are the best, in my opinion, thin cases you can buy because they have MagSafe and they're carbon, essentially, aramid fiber, but they're super thin. And for us who don't really drop our phones that often, it's just the level of protection you need to not get scratches and keep your resale value high. You're welcome, Pitaka.
Non-sponsored post.
Exactly.
Get in contact with Miriam for a sponsor.
You know what's a bummer, though? Their 9 Pro Fold case is only a half case. It's only the MagSafe back.
I'm 100% okay with that because for the fold cases, I never put the front one on because I think it just ruins the aesthetic. So I have the back one, the Pitaka case on the back on the fold, and I'm like this, and it's so thin you can't even tell it's there, but it adds a splash of color to it, and I'm like, oh, this
They're
feels real
colored
nice.
things. Like I have the old Pixel Fold, the original case, and it's got like different inlaid fiber.
Yeah, the fiber colors
Oh.
are different. They have them called like sunrise and
so
stuff like.
good.
So they go from like reds to oranges to like a violet.
Yeah,
and
the
it's
green
beautiful.
one over there is really cool on my iPhone. But anyway, thanks to Pitaka.
I should go to their booth.
Yeah, we
They should
should
have some
swing
new
by
stuff.
their booth. But in OnePlus 13, I think, to me, the headline I wanted to give it for my review on Hot Hardware, which you should go and read on Hot Hardware, is I wanted to say OnePlus 13 review, the flagship killer grows up. That's what it felt like to me. It's $100 more, yes.
Yeah.
But Pixel is $100 more to get the same size, the same capacity. From last year's Pixel, I'm not comparing to OnePlus.
Yep.
Inflation is what I'm talking about. S24 Ultra, although there's more coming soon, but S24 Ultra today is $100 more than it was S23 Ultra was. So there is inflation happening, and I feel like what they've delivered with the better cameras, the better design, the new processor, but more importantly, things like IP68 and 69 water resistance. You can put in the dishwasher now.
Yeah. So, how much of that is a gimmick? Because here's the thing: we went on this.
Have you ever
cruise,
washed a phone by accident in the washing machine? That's your gimmick.
But a washing machine isn't spraying water. A washing machine fills
Yeah, but
up
it's
water
hot- it's
really
hot
slow.
water.
But it's just hot water from the tap. Like it's not like it's boiling water. Like my phone, what I've watched
Well, it
my
doesn't
phone.
do boiling. It has only 8 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, it's not even. But like, I've put plenty of phones through the wash over the years, and I've never broken a phone in the wash. So I don't need IP69 for that.
Look, it's good. I don't think
It's a nice
not
feature,
important,
but
I think it's good.
Like if you're in an industrial environment and you have water spraying at you all the time, sure, whatever.
What I like about the industrial design on it is it's the same as the Find X8, but Pro specifically, and the Realme GT7 Pro. It has that 2.5D bottom and top edge,
Yeah.
like on the front glass and the rear glass, and even if you have the vegan leather version, the vegan leather back, and it means there is an aluminum rail, but it's thinner, not as thin as when they used to have the curved display. And that's the thing; it has a flat screen despite having 2.5D.
Yeah.
And I think overall the hand feel and the industrial design
It feels really good.
is awesome.
Yeah.
And so you add that, you add the cameras, you add the display, which is 4500 nits still, you add the processor, you add the performance. I think their OS is snappier than it was. Way snappier.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to the chipset as well. But like
But the optimization of the animations and stuff, yeah.
They've worked really
Yeah.
hard on the. They actually did a presentation like before they rolled out the OS. I'm not sure if you were on that one. It was like an hour
I was
about. It was an hour about how we improve the animations on our OS. They've
It
done
was
a
a
really good
little
job.
nerdy.
My one thing, though, specifically for the U.S. market, because other markets, everyone's just buying their phones unlocked most of the time. Some people do buy their phones through their carriers. OnePlus is still trying to say we can go it alone in the U.S.
it's a
market.
rough one.
If you go back to OnePlus's best years, 2 years in the U.S. is when they had
T-Mobile.
phones on T-Mobile. That's when they sold the most. That's when they're actually gained market share, and they've reverted since then. Without carrier support or carrier sales in the U.S., if you can't buy it from a carrier, I don't want to say it's irrelevant because it's not, but you have to specifically know that you want this phone, and you need to go to OnePlus.com or. They're not
Best
even
Buy,
doing. They are
Amazon.
doing, Best Buy and Amazon. But like, you have to go look for it. No one else is going to tell you should buy this phone. You need to know already that you want this phone, and that's a hard sell in a market where 95% of phones are bought through a carrier
And subsidized because
and subsidized. Yeah,
And yes, you can get it subsidized at Best Buy because they add a plan to it, but it's not the same.
It's not the same,
And
no.
it reduces OnePlus's opportunities.
Yeah, and I would love for more people to own this phone, but it's going to be limited because of their distribution model, and until they change that, it hurts me a little bit because there could be so many more people using a great phone, and they're just not because they don't know where to buy it.
Nonetheless, for the audience I have here, the tech savvy early adopters, if you're
You
looking
guys know.
for a bar phone and you don't want a Pixel, I think this is it in North America. And I'm serious. Like, forget Samsung. Like, I don't think it's in the same league.
I'll say this though, like if
Samsung's a year old.
If you're buying a Pixel because like you like the software
Yeah,
experience,
that's one thing.
But like if you don't care about cameras, I'd go with the 13R.
I think that
Because
C13R.
I'd go with the 13R because it's significantly cheaper. You get all the same software features. The phone still looks good. And the 13R gives you still incredible, like even if you are doing gaming, there's, I don't know, we always talk about these benchmarks and people.
8 Gen 3 is perfect for gaming.
8 Gen 3 is still fantastic. The battery life isn't going to be as good, but it's still going to give you all day battery life.
They both have 6,000 milliamp hour batteries, right?
Yeah.
And
both have
100 watt charging, right? And then there is just wireless charging missing from the R.
Yeah.
Also, the R has a 2x telephoto without OIS instead of the 50 megapixel 3x awesomeness. But you're right. I think you make a good point. And the prices are $599 for the R, right? And that's with what, 12 to 56?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
12 to 56.
And then $899, 12 to 56 for the 13, and $999 for 16, 512, which I think is a good deal because then you get a lot of storage. And they're giving it for free for the first like month or so.
Yeah, you get the free storage and RAM upgrades for the first 30 days.
So look, I think for me, if I wasn't obsessed with the Pixel software, even the camera doesn't offend me on the 13, to be frank. I think it's very solid.
I will say Pixel software is my favorite. BBK Group, everything besides Vivo is my second favorite version of Android.
100%.
And so like I love the feel. Honestly,
although nothing is in there somewhere.
Nothing is in there, but the one thing that would make the OnePlus software a little bit better for me is because on the Pixel software, you have the Google search bar at the bottom.
Yes.
Below the apps.
Yes.
I want Google to give that to everybody else. I mean, they could put it into their app launchers, whatever, but I want them to do that because that's the thing for me. I don't want my Google search bar right above it because it just messes up my home screen. Me being picky in the least, but you know.
That's a Pixel launcher thing, and it's great. Look, let's talk about maybe automotive if you've had a chance to explore stuff. Because I have a lot to talk with. You start with one.
So the Afeela EV1.
All right, you're in love. You're getting one?
So I got, no, I have not put in my $200 reservation quite yet, but I got to the tour yesterday, and I'll say they've had it here, 2 or 3 years?
I feel like it's 4 years now.
Their concepts, right?
Yeah.
I think the first year they're like, here's the thing we're going to do, and then the next year they showed up with a new car, and then they showed up with another new car, and now we're finally getting the production intent vehicle. They're still saying, it's still a prototype in what it is, where there's going to be some last minute tweaks, but the exterior design is what it is. But it's got LiDAR built in on the top. It's got cameras built in. It should be able to self-drive itself. Individualized Sony audio pods for the passengers. The display up front, the passenger can watch a video that's blacked out so that the driver can't see it.
Yep.
Like the technology in there is really good, and I
Audi
love the
does
design.
this too, by the way.
I know, but like the overall design of it, like
I love the look of the car, and I love
great.
the tech in the car. My biggest concern is they've announced the price, which
It's
I
ridiculous.
personally don't care because I understand the XEVs are expensive. My $90K for a car that is about the same size as a Honda Civic or a Model 3 is a tough sell.
I would say,
especially a sedan.
I would say it's bigger than the Model 3, though. It's slightly wider.
A little bigger, but
Yeah.
not much. The biggest concern I have is the EV performance numbers, not in terms of driving performance, but maximum charge rate, 150 kilowatt, maximum range, 300 miles. Those are 2022 specs, and it's not shipping until 2026.
Here's the thing,
It's
though.
going to be obsolete as an EV.
Here's the thing. Those are like the projected numbers because they didn't announce the battery chemistry.
Okay.
And because Honda is actually building the thing, right?
Right.
Honda has they are right now constructing their solid state battery production
Factory,
line,
yeah.
their production line that's going to be online by the end of this year. So they didn't say the chemistry, and those numbers that they shared were probably the numbers that they've been sharing for like 2 years.
Those are obsolete numbers.
But like those are the numbers that they've shared for the last 2 years, right? They haven't changed. So my intuition is saying this is actually going to be the first, because a Honda vehicle with solid state batteries is going to be too expensive. This is going to be the first one with a solid state battery. So those numbers that they shared are going to be completely different from the production.
I'm hope you're
thinking,
right, because right now, solid state's still pie in the sky.
It is, but it is pie in the sky.
It's been pie in the sky for a long time.
But I think that's one of the reasons why the they said mid 2026 for.
Yeah.
So
look, I love it. I just am very skeptical because I've seen so many of that vaporware stuff going on where like Fisker was like this too, right?
Yeah.
Like now Fisker is his own problem because Henrik Fisker is a problem, and he fails at business. But Fisker, the car itself was really sound, but
the price was ridiculous.
They shipped it too early, so the software was really terrible and buggy and problematic.
What was the price on that? It was like 100.
No. It was in the 65, 75.
Oh no, sorry. I was thinking
You're thinking of the Karma, the original.
Karma.
Yeah. No, but I'm talking about the Ocean, the one that, has left a lot of people with bricks, not bricks, but very, zero value used cars. For me, there's a few things that got me excited here, and maybe a few other cars. So let's pick one to start. I'll talk about BMW a little bit because the Neue Classic cars are being exhibited here. These cars are coming to to at least Europe sometimes later this year, probably in the middle of the year later, it's like Q3-ish. And that's kind of amazing. This is, Neue Klasse originally in the 1970s was what made BMW who they are today. The legacy of BMW, when you think about the cars today, started in the 70s with an original Neue Klasse, where they were kind of struggling as a German car maker, and they decided to really be innovative and create something unique, and which eventually became the 3 Series, etc. And so here we are. They're redoing Neue Klasse basically because they're realizing that they're not doing so great. They have a solid lineup of products, but most of them are IC hybrid. And on the EV side, they're good, but they're not great. And so they're like, we want Neue Klasse to be, competitive with the Chinese and the startups. And we want it to be an EV-only platform that has SUV and sedan. And so I'm excited to see that they're making good progress. They announced the UX inside the car. Mm-hmm. I was there for that. I'd already seen it in LA last year, but it's a very interesting concept. They're projecting a screen from the dashboard onto that black section that's blacked out in every windshield, so the anti-glare layer.
I saw this at the Samsung display booth because it's a Samsung display thing. So they
wouldn't tell us, thank you.
So I saw Samsung Display's concept of an interior, and they're projecting from below onto the thing, and they're like less glare.
But then they project on the driver's side a little more on the windshield, so and it's treated glass, and they actually have a heads-up display in that part. Yeah, and then they have a normal, and it's slanted, but it's deceiving because it's a 17.9-inch display.
Yeah,
the center screen.
The one thing I'll say, like with BMW, Mercedes with their EVs, my issue is that people who buy BMWs and Mercedes buy BMW and Mercedes, but that's their market. Like, there's not that many new BMW owners. Like, you buy your second,
it's
your
an
third,
established
your fourth,
audience,
and they have to find a way to change it up a little bit to bring new life into the brand, because people who want a BMW buy a BMW, but that's it. No one else is buying the brand. And so people aren't jumping from Mercedes to BMW to something else. They are stuck there for life, but they need a gateway drug to pull people in to get them to these nice cars. They don't have that gateway drug, something that's a little bit cheaper for a younger audience to come in and then graduate to.
Yeah, and I think there's an opportunity in the industry right now to capture all the, myself included, Tesla drivers that are fleeing and are used to a very high standard in terms of technology and performance and everything else. And I think that's the opportunity. What is interesting before we move on is that we are this display. You can like there's widgets on the main screen that you can flick to wherever. There's
You
6
flick to
slots.
different areas.
So you can put like what you want. Like what is my ETA? What is my outside temperature? And these widgets are more complex than that. But like you can customize at any time. And then of course you can have like these change them. Like these like when I'm driving on the countryside, give me these widgets. When I'm driving in the city, give me these widgets. When I'm another driver, give me these widgets. And it's kind of well thought out. Like I have to say, the proof is in the pudding. Until I get a Neue Classic car to drive, I will be able to really judge. What else?
I haven't seen it yet, but tomorrow I'm seeing the production intent Aptera.
I was just there.
How is it? Because I'm really excited for it because I've been following the production for years now.
So there are two things going on. At their booth, they have a roller basically. Like it looks good from the outside. You step inside, you start seeing that it's like just basically a model, right? Like it doesn't drive.
Yeah.
It has a motor but no battery pack. It has a screen that's really washed out. It's just showing the UI. It's very basic, but it shows you what it's going to feel like to sit in it and how comfortable it is, and that's
the
really
whole
important.
space. They've finally finalized.
But they also have cars that we can drive, and I'm hoping to get a drive. And right now they don't have them here, so you have to like plan
schedule something in advance.
But that will really be the truth because Aptera is really interesting to me because the cars covered in solar panel. They're all about efficiency. They only have a 40-ish kilowatt hour battery, which is really small. It's all carbon fiber and super lightweight aluminum materials.
How much are they saying they'll gain per day with the solar
40
panel?
miles.
40 miles per day.
And they've actually put a shell of an Aptiva with the solar panel on a roof of a building.
Just to see what
different
it'll collect?
locations geographically, like rain, places that are rainy, places that are sunny, to kind of get, and they're promising an average of 40 miles
per day. That's the thing. Like, if
so
you
your
can
40 miles you drive, you get back.
Well, it's like if one day you drive 10 miles and the next day you drive 100, like if your average is 40, you might never have to charge your vehicle.
No, and then, it's a 3-wheeler. It's a little cramped. I mean, so if you're looking for a roomy, this is really going to be a car to run errands. This is not a car for long distance. And not because it can't.
Well, I mean,
it's simply because it's not going to be.
This could be your city car.
Two seats, right? That's
like if you live alone, you don't have a family, and it's got a little trunk, right?
Yeah.
You
but
put your
efficiency is the name of the game. Yeah. Like this is super efficient car. So
I'm excited to see that one.
It has a 300-mile range on a 40-something kilowatt hour.
It's insane.
Right? Because
you could probably get 3 people and lift the whole car.
Exactly. It's 2,200 pounds.
Well,
but it's insane for an EV.
But that's like heavier than my like Honda Civic from
10 years ago.
No, that was
90s.
My 92 Honda Civic SI. Yeah.
So, other things that I want to mention because we are running out of time is Zeekr is here. Zeekr is a Geely based Chinese manufactured brand.
Okay.
And they also own Geely owns Polestar and Volvo. So check them out. They're right across from Oshkosh in West Hall. And the cool thing about Zeekr is that they're making the first proper robotaxi for Waymo.
Okay.
They're the partner for that.
Oh yeah, so that's the app. So
yeah.
I've seen the.
But they also
prototypes.
have their awesome cars that you can't buy here, but you can buy in Europe and Asia, and on display. And I'm pointing that out to you because I'm a big fan of what Geely, the parent company, is doing with Volvo and Polestar. But I think Polestar doesn't understand itself as a brand because people see Polestar as just an electric Volvo, but also. There are electric Volvos that are essentially Polestars. So how do you draw the line? How do you get the customers? And that's why Polestar is not doing so well with their sales because I think people don't understand the brand. The company itself doesn't understand the brand. What I think Geely should do is bring Zeekr in and make Polestars Volvos. And then that would make sense. Everything would work again,
Yeah, we'll have to see how that plays out. Yeah, it's hard when you have two brands that are sibling brands that don't really have any differentiation between the two.
Any final automotive thoughts?
Not on the automotive front.
Any final thoughts?
Any final thoughts?
Anything that stood out? Because we haven't talked about home automation.
There's a whole lot of other stuff. Govee has so many new RGB lights and different combinations. Like if you like doing RGB lighting systems in your house, they've got a whole lot of that. Robot vacuums.
You're the king of robot vacuums.
SwitchBot has a new robot vacuum modular platform where the robot vacuum is used to drive around a platform that sits on top of it that also allows you to put a fan on top of it or an air purifier or a webcam. And then the robot vacuum's LiDAR is used to drive these things around your house and monitor your house or to purify the air in all the rooms of your house. And there's a battery system built in. I have no clue what the price is, but it's insanely cool. Probably not really practical, but it's nice to see some innovation in that space. And then Roborock has a vacuum that, you know, you leave your things on the floor in the house and the robot vacuums go around it. This one's here is programmed has a robot arm that comes out of the body and picks up socks.
I saw that.
And then it'll take it and put it into a basket and then it'll vacuum your floor afterwards. I was talking to one of the product managers and I was telling him, we have a cat. My wife will like fold our laundry and she leaves them in the basement, and the cat, if I don't pick up my clothes and take them up to my room, she'll go in and she'll get my folded up socks and carry them around the house and play with them. And so we'll wake up in the morning and there's a pair of rolled up socks in the living room, in the entryway and stuff. I was like, I want the robot vacuum to go at like 5 a.m., monitor and pick up all my socks and put them away because my cat played with them all day.
That is awesome. Well, that's a great way to end. There's so much more here. We saw crazy stuff at PepCom Showstoppers and Unveiled. We'll have some reels on our social media about the crazy stuff we saw. Scout Motors is here, which is a Volkswagen derivative brand that does very much the same kind of EV as Rivian. Who else? There's a whole bunch of Honda has their prototypes here again of their EVs. So yeah, stay tuned for more CES stuff on our social media. And yeah, Nick, tell folks where they can find you on the internet.
You could find me personally at Nick M. Gray on Threads or Instagram, or you can find my work that I'm doing here at CES and other times on Fandroid.com for me and my team, or social media, Fandroids with an S.
And folks, read Fandroid. It's awesome. And you know where to find me. I'm at Tankrl on all the social. TNKGRL, just like the comic book character. Drop all the vowels and you get my handle. I'm on Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, that other place that everybody hates. And yeah, so follow me, talk with me and Nick on our social. And remember, the podcast lives at mobiletechpodcast.com. We're on all the platforms, so please subscribe, tell your friends. Rate or review the show if your app lets you. There's a YouTube channel, youtube.com/mobiletechpodcast, where you can get a bunch of videos. So check that out. You know how YouTube works. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, click the bell. And finally, there's a Patreon if you want to help me out. Patreon.com/Tankrl. That's patreon.com/TNKGRL. You can get a video version of this podcast, CES in person, every week in advance, a day in advance, for $5 a month. So if you join the Patreon every week, you get something. So sometimes you go over and I leave that extra time in. Sometimes we have bloopers and fun things. So please consider helping me out on Patreon, patreon.com/Tankrl. And I want to thank our sponsor, Infineon. Infineon is a global semiconductor leader in automotive, power systems, and IoT, and is committed to driving decarbonization and digitalization together with its ecosystem partners. And Nick, and also Adam, who left, thanks so much again for coming all the way to the madness of Central Hall.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure as always.
Thanks, Nick. We'll have you on again, and folks, we'll have another show next week. Cheers, everyone.
Bye.
This has been the Mobile Tech Podcast with Tank Girl, proudly presented by worldpodcasts.com. You can visit us online at mobiletechpodcast.com.